Hello everybody, John here again, and today onto the garage we're carrying on with trying to start steel. So stood overnight, the relay is out for the pump, so there's no fuel doing anything, but just because it's stood, I'm gonna flick it over. It's still got a battery on, not a good one, just to see if I can get it to cough into life. Nothing. So we failed to get this started the other day. I supplied it with fuel, admittedly old fuel, but it's the fuel that is starting and running Sapphire, so we know it's got enough volatility to do its job. We managed to get it to cough and splutter a little bit, but it was not having anything in terms of starting. So one of the possibilities is we've got what's called bore wash, which is a reasonably common thing with XK8s, particularly early cars. And what happens is, on startup, these old 4 litres use a lot of fuel, very, very rich mix. And if they fail to start on the first or second go, they can flood themselves really easily. And because relatively you're looking at a big piston and it's a V, you get the moisture in there from the fuel sitting against one side, and it starts to bleed past the cylinder wall and it literally washes the oil away, and you can get a thing called bore wash, where it's removed a little bit of the oil, it's reduced the compression. Whatever your issue was in the first place, which was preventing it from starting, is now compounded by the fact that there's lower compression, plus there is fuel in the cylinders anyway, throwing around, flicking around, hitting the spark plugs, and you're in this endless loop that means it'll just not start. And so there are various ways of getting out of that. One of them is to depress the throttle fully on the car while you're trying to start it. That should stop the fuel pump from running and enable you to crank it and attempt to start with no fuel extra being supplied. But that only works to a degree, because obviously there's fuel in the lines and above the injectors and all that sort of thing. But it can work, but you really have got to persevere with it. Lots and lots of cranking, almost to battery failure in several installments so you don't overheat things, followed by releasing the throttle, and all of a sudden you get the fuel coming in and it can start. Well, I have sort of tried that. I haven't run it to battery failure or anything like that, but I've given it a little go and it didn't seem to want to start. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the coil covers off on this, pop the coils and spark plugs out, and spin the engine over to let anything that's in there get chucked out of the spark plug holes, and then reinstall it, put a new battery on, put some fresh fuel in and have another crack. That's the plan for today. So I'm just going to get myself the right tool. I think these might be either 7s or 6s back in the mo. Yep, these are 7mm. They shouldn't be very, very tight because they're pulling down on plastic. There is a brass insert in here to prevent them being crushed. But still not too tight. Now, less so on XK8s, but especially on XKRs, the condition of the seal around this is kind of critical, because if water gets in here, it can fill up the spark plug hole or coil holes and cause it to short and misfire. And the reason it's more of a problem on an XKR is the grills in the bonnet allow water to get to that area rather more easily, particularly when you're jet washing the car or anything like that. Under the bonnet on an XK8 it's reasonably well protected, but of course engines get washed off, coolant leaks happen, so it's always a possibility. Let's go without the extension, the one by the turret and the one low down close to the bulkhead, just for access. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Mike Howes, who is an absolute gent, and having seen the video where I sort of did my diagnosis on Sapphire and recognising that we had no under tray at the front, sent me one free of charge. Thank you so much, sir. You're an absolute gentleman. Well, this looks good, very good. None of the bolts were stripped. The seal doesn't look like it's been leaking. All of the coils are Densos, and that's original. So old coils, but high quality coils. And all the wiring looks as it's intended from the factory. So all we need to do is gently remove the electrical connector. I don't want to pull the wires, so I'm pressing that button on the clip and just pushing back with the tips of these needle nose on the connector. And there's the first one out. I'm going to run along these, and just be aware you've got quite old wire in here that's been very hot, and you don't want to damage it or overstrain it, so just take your time. Then each coil is held in place with two 7mm bolts. And then with the two bolts out, just move the wiring out and feel to see if the coil is attached to the spark plug. So it is, i.e. there should be a little bit of resistance to pulling it off. And then give it a pull. Nice and square, hear it pop. And off it comes. I note that that one's even numbered, number 1. All this is dry and clean, which gives me an expectation that there's been no water down there, so we're not looking at shorted out coils. I very much doubt there's a problem with any of the coils either. All that I'm doing today is very straightforward, but time consuming. So you might see quite a lot of fast forward action in this video. Okay, so they're all out. You can see the spark plugs deep down in those holes. You can also see a little channel, the wiring goes through, and you just want to check that that's not been chafing and bitten through the wires. It all looks in great nick. Really interestingly, I mentioned it's got number 1 stamped. 1, 6. I'd be really interested to know what that's all about. The other side is just the part number 01128. Same, same, same. And all of the tops are identical. So if you want to see the serial numbers, there they are. You need a 10mm spark plug socket to get these plugs out. Unlike most cars, spark plugs are not such an obvious consumable item. If you're changing spark plugs on these, it's because they're damaged or because you've done 80,000 miles. Because they use iridium spark plugs, real material, not a made up one. And iridium spark plugs are incredibly hard and resistant to erosion. Conductivity and the creation of spark is fabulous. Their only downside is they're a bit on the dear side. And you can tell an iridium spark plug a mile off because the contact is like a needle. And that's because it only needs to be that wide because it won't erode away and you get a better spark, but also expensive, so you only have a little bit of it. A little bit oily and black, but then again, engine hasn't been running for a while, and the tip has still got a little bit of beige colour to it. Don't look too bad. Always keep the tool very square. You don't want to bend and snap a spark plug. Oily at the end, but the tip has been firing. So there they are. Front, next one back was a little bit sooty and oily, but the other two look good and been firing. Over on this side you've got a little bit of problem with access, which you can remove the header tank for, or if you have a nice little ratchet like this one, you can sneak under there and get it off no bother. And again, all looks very clean, very nice inside there. So I'm feeling very positive about this. Anybody wondering about this pipe? It's not part of the Jag, it's my return pipe for the fuel, where I rigged up so that I don't keep wasting fuel. There we go. So they're all off again. All the coils again look original. Oh, interesting, look, it's a number 3. Number 6. Ah, that one was not gripping the top of a spark plug. So that's a bit sus. And look, oil. Oil or petrol? Oil. That one was okay. Yeah, and dry. I'm going to try and show you down the spark plug holes, because this is interesting. I don't think it's the problem, but it's interesting and a teachable moment, if you like. So that's how you'd expect it to look. Dry, clean, bright, and maybe a little bit of something. Could be oil, could be water settling at the bottom. Next one. Give or take, it's the same. This is the one that wasn't gripping. There's a lot of liquid down there. And then this one, might be damp, but it's relatively bright and clean. This one looks like there is oil down there. Now, look where it is in relation to the filler. Now this is dry, but remember this car stood for years. This can be just filling up, spilling, the oil dripping down here, and that's the spark plug that catches most of the oil from filling up. And it's not full, you know, it's not submerged, so I think that's what that is. Right. Just got a bit of absorbent cloth taped around the end of a screwdriver. I'm just going to poke down there. See if we can pick up some of the oil. Yeah, pretty sure it's engine oil. This certainly won't be what's stopping its running. It's not anywhere near deep enough. And there are another 7 cylinders to help it along. But equally, I don't really want it to fall in its entirety into the spark plug hole. Okay, it's not too bad. One seems pretty good. more oil in there than you think. There you go. Tip is dry and actually sort of beige colour, which is excellent. So this is just oil above the spark plug. Nothing more mysterious. You might have noticed on the other extension as well, I sticky taped the socket to the extension with some insulating tape. That's just because there's a rubber gripper in there to hold onto the spark plug. And sometimes you get into situations where you want to pull the plug socket off and it stays down there and you can't get the thing back. More of a problem when you're putting them in than when you're taking them out, but decent habit to get into. We're finally at a position where I can spin the engine over and push out any rubbish that's in the cylinders. I don't think there's going to be a lot. So here we go. That should have dried things out somewhat. I saw some vapour coming out on that bank. Oil level's fine. And because the sun's going down, that's where I'm going to leave it for now again. Working outdoors, not as easy as working indoors. So yeah, I'll come back to this probably tomorrow. Pop the plugs in and see if we can get it to cough a little better. See ya.